Today we're going to take the classification. طيب, let me كده explain for you something. There was a scientist whose name is Carlos Linus. Carlos Linus, he's a scientist who used to travel all over the world. Okay, this scientist, he traveled to every place and he had a certain crew. This crew, or the other scientists, they started to gather information about every living organism on Earth. All the kinds of bacteria, all kinds of worms, all kinds of insects, all kinds of animals, and they started to gather information about them and put them in groups. They decided to group them into 5 major groups. The ones who are sharing the same characteristics, they started to put it in kingdom and a group yani, and they called it a kingdom, and they started to call it kingdom for bacteria. The ones who are sharing the common characteristic put it in a kingdom called fungi, another one called protoctista, another one called plantia, another one called animalia. Plantia for plants and animalia for animals. And then he started to take every kingdom and sort more and more and more the living organisms inside it to divide the kingdom according to the common characteristics into number of phylum, and in every phylum into number of classes. Every class, number of order. In every order, number of families. In every family, number of genus. And in every genus, number of species. But let us know what is the meaning of the word species at the beginning. To say that me and you of the same species, we have to be a male from my type and the female from your type. Yani the male and the female from our type, they can breed, they can marry and produce offspring or babies. That's it? No. And this offspring, it's a must to be fertile. What do I mean by fertile? Yani they do have the ability to give birth. بيخلفوا. I'm not talking about people اللي عندهم diseases they don't give birth. لا, I mean, for example, like the donkey and the horse. For example, the donkey and the horse, they can breed together, they can marry, but and they can give birth, by the way, but they cannot produce a fertile offspring. They produce a living organism which is called the mule. Okay, this mule, it doesn't have except an opening. This opening, they will reproduce using it. So they cannot, we cannot have a mule female and a mule male and they marry and produce another mule. No, a mule is not a male nor a female, only having an opening for urination and that's it. Okay, so this is for the word species. After this, these scientists, they gathered the living organisms into groups or kingdoms and so on. They started to give every specific living organism a special name. And this type of naming, they called it binomial nomenclature. Binomial, it means by, to, nomial, yani names. Nomenclature, it means naming. So it is a system of naming that will give every living organism on Earth a name which is made from 2 names. The first name starts with a capital letter and it is the genus name. And the other name is starting with a small letter and it is the species. Okay? And in a paragraph, if you do have the name of these living organisms, you will find it italic or bold. يا كبيرة يا إما مايلة كده في الباراجراف. And these words, or most of the signs, احنا بنستخدم فيه the Latin language. Because as I told you before, in the Latin language, it doesn't change by time. It is fixed. It doesn't have funky وفلة وpeace. No. It's a fixed language, common language between all scientists, between all languages. So as scientists, they can talk with the same language, which is Latin, although they don't speak the same languages. Scientists, مثلا, speak Arabic and the other one speaks French. Okay? But this Latin language, they can use as a common language between them to understand each other's. Okay? Let us see here. We go to the notes and see the parts which are related, and then we can come back to explain here. Okay. As you see here, the notes, these are all the chapters that you do have. Here, this is chapter 1. We took nutrition. Sorry. We took, before in the first session, we took nutrition, autotrophic. We took all of these things related to Mrs. Green. And also, I explained it in much more details for you not to be confused. Okay, here about the classification. This is the sorting out of living organisms. Here in kingdom, kingdom contains number of phylum, number of classes, order, family, genus, and species. You do have here the definition for genus, but you don't have to study it by heart. The one that you have to study it by heart is the species, which is group of living organisms having the same characteristics, can breed together, produce offspring, and this offspring or babies, they have to be fertile. What do I mean by fertile? Yani they do have the ability to give birth. Taxon, this is the science of naming the living organisms together. And for example, here, if you're going to see something like a dog, which dogs are types, the first name for all the dogs, it will be, for example, Canis, like this one. But the dogs مثلا اللي هم الnormal dogs اللي هم اللي في الستريت, they are called familiaris. The wolf is called lupus, for example. So different types of dogs, they do have the same genus, and it starts with a capital letter like Canis. While the species, it will give the name for every specific type. Lulu is a type, golden retriever, Labrador, for example. Okay, and the species, it will give it the specific name. Then we took before the prokaryotic cells, which are the bacteria cells, and here all the things that we studied about the bacteria. Okay? Then comes here kingdom for protoctista. Read it. It's a kingdom containing some living organisms. Some of them are multicellular. I mean, they are made from many cells like us. Some of them are unicellular, only one cells. Some of them, they can do photosynthesis like plants. Some cannot. They depend on others to obtain their own food and so on. It doesn't come in the exam. It came only one time. And when they mentioned the protoctista or the protoctist, they talked in the question about what are they first before asking the questions. So don't bother yourself by it. What about the kingdom of the fungi? Let us explain it here. The kingdom for the fungi, okay? Let us see how do they look like. طبعا, I'm not talking about all fungi. Not all fungi are bad living organisms. الفنجي, majority of them, or the type, which is the mold, العفن. This type, it looks like this. And sometimes the archila too coming out of each others. Okay? It looks like plant, but it's not plant. By the way, the fungi, mushroom is a fungi, which is edible. في bad mushroom, في اليست الخميرة، في المشروم اللي هو المولد، في يعني الفنجي, some of them are good, are helpful for us, and some of them they cause diseases. This fungi is the mold which will live on dead living organisms. All it will spoil the food that we eat, vegetables and fruits. This is called the sporangium, where spores are stored inside it, and this is the reproductive organ of the fungi. This is called the hypha, and this thing is called the mycelium. They are not roots, they are only things, looks like roots, embedding themselves inside the food. طيب. How do they eat? The mycelium secrete chemical is called extracellular enzyme on the food that they will fall upon. And this is the bread, for example. It will turn this bread from insoluble, doesn't dissolve in water, into soluble, so they can absorb it and take this type of nutrition. After the fungi is fully mature, this sporangium is going to burst and the spores are going to spread all over the place. This is asexual reproduction, by the way. This is asexual reproduction because the spores, they are not male nor female. They carry both. When they find another food with the suitable conditions like humidity, any water vapor in the air, and warm temperature, these spores are going to grow on them and they will grow again into the main fungi and they will spoil another food. This is why, as I told you in the previous recording, that please, if you do have a spoiled vegetable or fruit, keep it in a plastic bag, tie it, and throw it away from you. Okay? Because it's going to infect the rest. And also, by the way, this happens with dead people. The fungi also, they digest or decompose the dead living organisms by this way. And this is related to the fungi. You don't have to study in the fungi more than this. So let us go back to our notes. So this is related to the fungi, and here in the notes I wrote for you only in the paragraph up the words which we have to know them: mycelium, threads which are hypha, this is the bread mold, and so on. Okay. And this is the yeast. And this is the rest of the fungi. How do they reproduce? They feed, they are parasites or not, they cause diseases and everything related to them. When we will reach the kingdom for plants,